Last time DarkZero and M80 locked horns, there were a couple thousand people in the room watching them on stage, witnessing DZ knock M80 out of the quarterfinals of Manchester. That was 4 months ago, and now both teams look a bit different, but no deadlier than they did before. And M80 was in a position to spoil DZ's position for top 2, but now Space Station have basically taken that out of the equation, which means this is just a good old-fashioned friendly with basically no stakes. And it's two really good teams to boot.
Yeah, I mean, you could say there's no stakes. I think DZ wants to crush everybody in the league just to get that first spot on their on the plate of this new roster, especially after such a long decision that they made. But, you know, I mean, you said both teams don't look any deadlier. I would also say DarkZero looks deadlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after their last game. I mean,
no,
they had a 7-1.
I say they looked no less deadly. Was the idea?
No less. Oh yeah.
They look just as good. Yeah,
just as good if not better.
Yep, that's the idea.
I hear you. That makes sense.
Anyway, yeah, game should be good.
No, this should be a good game. I mean, M80, I think Kino put out a tweet today. This is the battle of clout, which I thought was kind of funny. And then I can't remember the two players he listed as mailboxes for their team. I think NJR, and then I don't know who it was on M80, but I think this is going to be a pretty good game.
Definitely.
They're all friends, so this is going to be pretty funny to say the least. I think the team chat is definitely going to blow up from Kino's end on this end. But again, I think it does come down to DarkZero really wanting to solidify their first place spot to prove everyone that they were right with the changes that they made. And again, for M80, nothing really changes in terms of your playoff. So what that's going to look like for you, I think it's what, 4th, 5th is the decision that can be made from this game.
The highest they can get is 4th, and they're in 5th right now.
Yeah, so not a whole lot. Everything really is on DZ's shoulders just to continue to prove that they are looking great, that they can get 7-0 now, 7's a win streak. So yeah, I think more on line is pressure for DZ than it is for M80.
I think it's like DarkZero, yeah, sure, they're fighting for first place because they're there now, but they're fighting to keep it. But if you have a 6-game win streak, I kind of think you want to keep that because that's the role that DZ's been on since they lost their very first game of the stage, and we've basically forgotten it at this point. They kept it rolling against LG, 7-1 on Consulate. They took away a defensive fortress from LG and basically sleptwalked through that game.
Yeah, and there's a lot on the line, I believe, for DarkZero. I mean, if we want to go that much deeper, there's a lot on the line for Nafe because obviously he has come into such a big role, and everybody since the start of this change, since the start of this season, was questioning Nafe. Does he have the ability to lead the team? Can he even be an IGL? What are they going to do without Canadian? What's this new DarkZero going to look like? And there was so much on his shoulders individually, and they played against Canadian in that first game. It did not go in their way, but since that moment on, DarkZero has been unstoppable. And all the questions that everybody has been asking were slowly getting answered over time, and it went to show you, we talked about it in the second week, in the third week, it looks really confident. It looks like that's exactly what we wanted to see out of DarkZero. Everything has really been working for them. And no, it's not a major spot if they get first, but getting first to them means that the decisions that they made at the start that everyone questioned, they had to sit there with everybody on Twitter saying, what are you doing? It all means that everyone has to eat their words now because they can get that first place, and it's so important to at least specifically Nafe, but I think everybody on the team.
I won't even say it's been a slow showing. They've been doing it right off the bat after they lost to SQ. And then I would say the slow start is more so from their attacking sides, but as we've been seeing that towards the end of these games, those have really been looking strong. And just for the overall team play, again, they talked about they're able to be free, they're looser, the vibes are a lot higher. And especially for a DZ fan, there's no more 8-6s, 8-7s, 7-5s. Like, they're closing these games out very convincingly and doing it very well so.
DZ with no overtime games is crazy, by the way.
I'm glad you said consistently because we'll show you a graph exactly of how consistent DarkZero has been. Literally, stage 1, this is with Canadian, the man that got dropped from the team, and this is stage 2. Now,
this was kind of bad.
This may be apples to oranges. Obviously, it's not all on Canadian's shoulders, but at the end of the day, the consistency and the new life that Kobe Lax and the rest of the team have been able to bring in, this is hints of that Brazil roster when they first got Nafe. It's finally his full team to be able to pick apart and play with, and they have every single element that they need. And you can obviously see that 6-0 could be a 7-0 today.
Well, what's interesting too when you look at that stat line, and obviously throughout DZ's history, is they always kept to their playstyle. It was a very dynamic playstyle, and you knew that was a DZ playstyle. Whereas this one is completely different, where it's actually adopted the meta, and I think that's what's really why you're seeing this transition of a 6-0 versus starting out with 3 wins versus ending it now with a possible 7th win.
Right, they're riding the hot hand, which is phenomenal for this stage. But the question will be if they were to go to the major when they get to playoffs, even just next week.
That's the biggest thing too.
What does that look like when you start getting in best of 3 as an international competition? Will they still be as hot? Or can M80 actually knock them off their stride a little bit? Can they end the 6-game win streak that DarkZero has started? They won themselves on Lair, but it was 2 days ago. They didn't even have to worry about playing yesterday. They knocked off Los, and it was a similar story to DarkZero's victory yesterday. A 5-1 first half, blew through a lesser opponent, and they locked in playoffs. And hey, snapping DZ's win streak would be pretty great today.
Hey, even being a lesser opponent, they were the team to get the first 7-1 of the league in NA. So you can't discredit that, to say the least, and especially the performance that Los put up here. But again, as a whole, this team has been doing really well. But specifically Spoit. Spoit has really been a key figure of this roster. Even back when this iteration, when he was brought over from EU, it was no doubt that he was going to pop off. Even from the last stage, he was the stage MVP. He was competing with Ashen and Diffuser, but he ends up closing the stage out as the MVP, and he's doing that currently right now. Today, he is still the highest rated player, I believe, in EPS, I believe in KD, and then also in terms of cost. So he's doing everything that he was doing in stage 1, and he can still make that run here in stage 2 of keeping that performance live once again. So again, he's the wonder child. It's Spoit. He's the best 1v1 Jinxie tournament owner. He's the best in the NAL. He's doing it all right now.
Yeah, and obviously, if you look at M80 statistics, and even though they're in the middle of the pack right now, they should be placing way higher because they kind of have a little bit of everything. Everything's been finding their success, and the issues really just come outside of the server. In their map ban phase, we talked about it leading up to this week. If they can just figure those things out, they would be a lot more consistent. And we heard that the players, obviously, when they have individual talent, but when they play on big maps, they are very split up. And so if they can just figure that out and also improve on those bigger maps, then we'll see them a lot more consistent in the best of 3 playoffs.
It's actually kind of funny that you wanted to talk about him because he was also the guy from M80 that we sat down with earlier this week to just talk about Super Week and how we thought the team was doing. So, hey, coincidence is great. Roll the tape.
Hi, my name is William, also known as Spoit, and I play for Team M80. The group stage so far for M80 hasn't really gone perfect the way we wanted it to, but it's better to get the mistakes out of the way early in the league rather than late in the league. Some of the issues we've been having is our attacks. Obviously, we've been slacking a little bit, some hiccups here and there. Just looking over the mistakes that we, did on game day and, reviewing them and just, fixing the small pieces to, make the whole puzzle work. Right now, what is going very well for us right now is just the way we work as a unit. I feel like we play off each other very well. M80 has always been like a team with very good strats. We have like some of the best strat coaches in the world. Them two working together as well with Cameraman and Citizen. It's just like a good bond all together with a lot of like-minded people. We do things outside of the game. We live in the same house right now here in Austin, Texas. We go on dinners together. Team-wise, yeah, definitely a bunch of cool guys outside of the game, inside of the game. This stage specifically, Cameraman has been going crazy on the entries. I don't know what that guy eats for breakfast, but whatever he eats for breakfast, I need that ASAP. We have our little rivalry going on now with C9 Beast Coast. Me and Gunner go back and forth a little bit. So that's always, funny to watch, and, we're good friends and all. I would like to rematch SQ. I think we could, play a way better game than we showed during that time. A lot of mistakes that, were silly, and, we looked over them. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing them in the playoffs, maybe, yeah. I'm pretty sure we can still finish top 2, so I guess that is the goal. I mean, obviously, top 2, then you get that bye in the first round in the playoffs, so that obviously is a helpful to, not show, 3 potential maps. Just taking it game by game and, doing our thing, yeah.
It's a little unfortunate that they can't place top 2. They, like I said, they only can place 4th is their highest that they can get to. But still, I think it's important that, he doesn't love the environment here. Obviously, bringing on Cameraman has been a tremendous help, not only for him, but for the team as a whole. And obviously, him talking about with Citizen and him meshing together with Cameraman. I mean, everything's been looking really good. And then obviously the iteration of Hyper. But for Spoit to be giving everyone that credit and everything, and him being the star, the MVP of the stage right now,
sure,
you gotta love that from him. I mean, he's the vibe guy of that team as well as Kino. So it's always good to hear from Spoit and just you know, and to also reiterate of him talking about that they're working out all their problems throughout the stage, that now they can go into these playoffs with a little less on their shoulders.
Yeah, the playoffs is the big factor for every team, and obviously I think M80 is going to be a real threat when it comes to those best of threes, because they can use a lot of their map pool, and so far we didn't get to see too much out of them throughout the season, which can benefit them in playoffs. They've been able to hide some stuff, and hopefully going into it they have more to show. But today, I mean, if they can take a win off DZ, it'll make everyone feel a little bit more confident with them going into playoffs. Also, I really like their new jerseys they're all wearing.
You like the jerseys?
I do like them
been
better
a polarizing
too.
topic online.
Compared to those ones behind you, or that one specifically.
The vintage one?
Those are way better. You know, to be fair, I question their logo a little bit, but it's actually starting to grow on me a little bit.
The old race car design is cool though, like the classic race stripe type of idea.
Yeah,
it's a good look, man. Good jerseys, M80. Good stuff.
The map being bank makes a lot of sense to me for DarkZero to want to go to it. M80, I think, is sticking on this path of it's not really going to change anything for them, so they're going to a map they've already shown. Yes, we've saw some issues of them.
A map that they'd love to recover, because that Space Station game was kind of brutal.
I mean,
to be fair, like I think I think SSG just played a really good game of Siege. I don't think no matter what, M80 was not going to find their footing in that game at any given point.
No shot for that team overall.
Like I said, there's just some situations when a team is playing that well in game of Siege, you're just not getting your foot in the door.
To be able to change a whole identity of a map, which is what M80 really needs to do on these bigger maps like Labs and Bank, it takes time to do that, and I don't necessarily know if they would want to show a new identity of that map before playoffs. So I'd imagine they're still going to probably run the similar things, maybe just play a little together, maybe just do a bunch of strats off the fly and try their best to beat DarkZero. Makes a lot of sense why DarkZero would go to Bank. It's a very comfortable map.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of the G2 special of hiding your strats for SI here. You're just going to go, again, you're going to go to this map, you're going to show off nothing crazy. You might not even show this off in playoffs, so you're just getting it out of the way. Don't got to worry about this game because, again, there's not really a lot of stakes on the line here for M80, where, again, for DZ, it just means everything of just keeping that place in first and solidifying their name. I just expect this to really be back and forth, and like I said, in team chat in terms of Kino and them, I think this is just going to be a fun one just for everyone to be watching, and not only for us, but also for the players.
Yep, this game is just for seeding as far as DZ is concerned. It's the sort of game where if you're able to finish things out in first, that's phenomenal and is just the one number that you want to look at to prove that the move that you made over the offseason were 100% the right ones ultimately.
I agree.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's the biggest thing more so than anything is that whatever roster move that you're making, if you're able to continue to find success, that's the ultimate goal instead of making rosters similar to Los and then obviously falling a little flat towards the end.
Well, DZ, we're chomping at the bit to play this game for the top 2 seed, but that's already been confirmed. So let's have ourselves a good old-fashioned friendly between DarkZero and M80. It's Parker and Jesse with the call.
Either way, I am so excited for this matchup just because we've got 2 top 5 teams doing battle, and M80 have made some incremental improvements throughout this stage. They've had a bit of a backslide in some of their matchups. Obviously, they've had 3 losses, which is a bit abnormal for a team of their caliber. As for DarkZero, totally opposite side of the equation, Jesse. 6 regulation losses, 1 regulation loss. It's good enough for them to be ultimately in first overall, tied with Space Station, but they've got the round differential. What are your expectations in this matchup?
My expectations are that we're going to get a bloodbath, and we will finally get to find out who is the GOAT. Is it Bolo or Spoit? That's what the people want to see, Parker. And we got the Twitch ban, which is actually extremely common. It's the only attacker that M80 banned on Bank, so that was expected. DZ, they love their Dokkaebi bans, but I think a Monty makes more sense here. Indeed, it does. They've banned Monty quite a bit this stage. They'll ban Azami. That's their perma. That hasn't changed. And then M80 should take out the Valkyrie, as it's the other. M80 sometimes ban Valk. They sometimes ban Azami, but with Azami taken out from DZ, don't even have to wait for it. This should be a Valkyrie ban, Parker, unless there's anything crazy. I think the devs were right as well that both players want to play kind of basic, kind of standards. They don't want to give any information up. Troy bans nice. Oh, that's not a Valkyrie, that's a Kaid. Okay, so we're switching things up a little bit. Obviously, we've seen M80 play Bank a few times this season. They've usually banned the Valk. I don't think Kaid is a bad ban at all here. So I like the bans coming through. Nothing too crazy. We get some game chat going on. As the desk mentioned, these 2 teams are good friends, so should be a fun one. DarkZero still fighting to confirm that top 2 spot. They are looking very good. But if something goes horribly wrong, say they get 7-0'd or 7-1'd or 7-2'd, they would fall below SSG in round differential, and Sonic could jump above them as well. So DZ needing 3 rounds to lock down that top 2, and then I believe a regulation win would lock in first place for DarkZero. So a little to play for. M80, they're just here for a good time, here to showcase what they can do and get some bragging rights over DarkZero.
I'll want you to be the one to confirm the numbers, by the way, as you are Nerd Boy. You have those numbers in front of you.
I've been running
also, I received this message while we were in the break, and says, hold on one second here. Say hi to Jesse for me and tell him he's doing great, and that comes courtesy of my mother. So there you go. She wants to say some nice things to you while we are on the broadcast.
I'm a big fan of Entero Mom. I think she's one of my favorite moms in the scene. Always kind, always nice.
Says, I'm very glad that you can feel that way. Congratulations. She'll be very happy to hear this as well.
I'm sure she will. She's a lovely woman.
It's just the roasting will continue. You said that Lynx was your favorite caster, and my mom is very excited to see you cast.
Yeah.
Citizen, by the way. No.
Yeah, a little bit cautious.
He wanted to challenge NJR's Glass. This is going to be one hell of a fight if Citizen does decide to engage.
Smoke will provide some cover for NJR to push up. One of the best Glass players that we have in North America. He does love this operator hunting in the basement. Nafe actually finds the entry. Takes down Spoit, man of the hour for M80. He's been their top performer. Another player caught on these main stairs. Pamba, he lets Citizen slip away, perhaps? Citizen doesn't want it to slip away, though. He has Cameraman up here on the elevator, and so they want to go for a big double swing. This could be deadly if Pambazoo's not careful.
Citizen's expecting somebody. I love the sound of that vector, by the way. Bolo will be the one next in line to engage over inside of the elevator, and he had a sensational game yesterday. He was getting the Stokes praise very hard, and I'm glad that the chat were able to enjoy that. But Bolo in particular has been much improved over the first couple play days. I mean, when he was brought onto this DZ team, people were a little bit curious what rust that he would have, as it's been a while since he played at a top level. Well, Bo's back, baby. Bo's back. 1 minute left in the round, and the Glass has now inched even closer to the bomb site inside of Garage, and he's going to hold a very pivotal cross. All the while, DZ goes to work at the very conventional plant spot. Nafe tearing through it with the Selmas, and he'll have an opportunity to try to get that diffuser down. Still 3 toxic babes in pocket of Kino. Nitro Cell in the hands of Hyper, and 1 for Cameraman, but NJR needs to get into position, and DZ are worried about stalling out. Kobe, 1 pick on the Cameraman. That's one Nitro Cell down, and now it's Kino chased away through the soft destruction. He'll have to retrieve that toxic babe. Citizen eliminating NJR, trying to sprint to the top. Pambazoo stops him in his tracks, and it's Hyper in a 1v2 with the diffuser running away. Hold on against his former team. What can he muster? It's Pambazoo holding court above. Hyper will look for a 3rd kill as he now goes on to the diffuser. Pambazoo will rotate out and go for a drop. It at least chases Hyper off of that position. No drop yet for Pambazoo. As Hyper goes on, a flash goes down. Hyper gets off it yet again. Why does Pambazoo keep looking towards blue? Does he not hear Hyper on that diffuser? Down he'll go, and it's, at this point, you're just gonna have to go for the kill. Pambazoo will do it. He handles that one perfectly, and round 1 goes to DZ.
Some of our newer viewers may not know this, but Hyper played on DarkZero for over 3 years. The bulk of his competitive career was with this organization. They won a major together, and he teamed with both NJR and Pambazoo for about half of that time. NJR a little bit longer, but very familiar with a couple of these players on DZ. Obviously took a bit of a break, didn't play competitive for a long time, now has come back for M80. Attempted the clutch there. He got 2 good kills. Actually, very impressive for his ability to bring that one so close, but that is one of the hardest retakes in all of Siege. Basement on bank, the angles the attackers have from that hatch are so strong. So not surprising that Hyper couldn't pull it out. It was a good effort nonetheless. I was a little worried for DarkZero in that push because they did not have all of the ability to clear out that the Goyo canisters. They didn't bring a Twitch. They ran out of frag grenades. There were still those Goyos late into the round. Thankfully, they got a big enough man advantage throughout the roam clear and then pushing down main stairs as well that it didn't matter too much. They were fine. They played for their kills. So DarkZero still 1-0 up, but still anybody's game.
Am I hearing correctly that we're going to throw to a break with this technical pause? If that's the case, we'll be back with more of DZ vs M80. And we are back in action. DarkZero taking that very first round and then a tech pause, preventing us from getting the matchup back underway. And as you can see, all the scores have been wiped away. Pambazoo had a great round, as did Hyper. That's basically all you need to know. It was a downstairs defense for M80. They'll turn tail and go to the middle floor. Now, because why bother going back to the same bomb site you just lost? Especially on a map like Bank, where you don't really see archives tellers, but all 4 bomb sites are quote-unquote viable on this map.
Absolutely, and so we'll get to see some tactics come out from DarkZero to try to clear this out. If they can avoid the spawn peeking from Spoit was the opening death in round number 1, if you'll recall. It seems that they're going to be going in with a direct hit. We've got a Glaz, we've got a Sens, we've got a Ying, we've got loads of smokes on the Glaz and the Sens, so there's going to be a lot of opportunity to blind the opponents. Note that there is no Warden on the side of M80 either. Those C4s will be their only ability to kill players that they cannot see. Love this drone from Kobilax as well, just staring at Kino up inside a janitor. They're going to have that information. My question for DarkZero is, are they going to try to clear Kobe? Probably not with this operator lineup. With that intel, they did have the chance. I think instead they're just going to open these breaches, set up their drones in sight, and then as soon as they're ready, probably pretty quick here, jump in for an execute. Logic bombs, sends walls, get on in.
It's a very quick push as well. Look at that. Sens wall goes off. There's a Glaz positioned. More Sens play from their gadget, and Kobe will walk in. Nitro Cell goes off, and Hyper is prepared and waiting. They've lost the fog of war on the side of DarkZero. Secondary pistol in the hands of Hyper. Citizen is the first to die. Nafe gets one, but M80 slaughtering DarkZero as they looked for that very quick entry. The Nitro Cell taking out the gadgetry of Sens puts both NJR and Bolo in such a tough spot, especially when you factor that M80 doubles up in terms of player count. Halfway point of this round, and now NJR and Bolo will have to go back to the drawing board, and that drawing board seems to be positioned over towards Square. Spoit torn through the wall. Kino trades it right back. Spoit's still retrievable, but Kino, Hyper, and Spoit are in very, very rough shape. That's given a prime opportunity for NJR, who collects one on the Spoit. He's got a great gun in hand. He's got so much work to do, Jesse.
Feels impossible, and it is impossible as Hyper cleans things up. A fantastic start for the newest member of M80. Hyper didn't have the greatest start to the stage. He certainly was the lowest rated player for the majority of the stage. I believe he still is the lowest rated player at that. But throughout this last week, yesterday and today, Hyper has been exceptional. Not yesterday, I believe the day before, for M80. His most recent couple of games have been very, very strong. So nice to see Hyper showing up big, of course, countering that Sens play, being able to get that pistol shot, the secondary one, onto the Sens player of Nafe as well. Sens, you know, just not a great operator with that round loss.
Yeah.
Their win rate will fall to 25%, 1 win, 3 losses. Undoubtedly one of the weakest attackers that we have in Rainbow Six Siege. The problem with Sens, Parker, is that the wall just has so many counters. The fact that it can be blown up by Nitro Cells and impacts means that it's pretty much worse than a regular smoke, unless you have a very specific line that you want to cut off, as DZ did there. It's oftentimes not a better choice than just bringing, say, a striker or any other operator with smoke grenades. And so we saw that from DarkZero there. It didn't immediately punish them, the fact that they were able to destroy that Sens wall, but DZ just couldn't really get anything going. The angles for the Glaz weren't great, so you know what? They tried an interesting push. It didn't work out. I don't think DZ are going to lose sleep over it.
No, I'd agree with you there. I mean, I really like the chances that DZ took on that round, but as we often see with that double door quick execute into open area, if the defenders can get the early pick, that pretty much solidifies the push as a fail. DarkZero experienced that the hard way. The Nitro Cell obviously counters the gadget because it blows up the wall, which is the huge thing that you need to hide behind and have the Glaz do some serious damage on. I mean, you only got a single pick in that entire execute. DarkZero really behind the 8 ball when it came to that push. Try as they might to salvage it, it was just, there was way too much for them to do, and you can take control of the top floor, but the defenders are just going to sit there and wait, and as long as you don't peek them 1v1v1, you're typically going to find yourself in a very successful situation, and that's exactly what happened for M80. Now M80 will go back downstairs. They weren't exactly the most successful here before, but a huge part of that was a lack of control on Garage, and then a push that swept through the main part of server. And, well, it's a completely different execute here from DarkZero.
Yeah, I think that this is a good choice from M80 to run back this bomb site. You know, this is a site that they came down to a 1v1, although it was a post plant, so not a high success rate for the defense in that. But regardless, they'll try this bomb site again. If they win it in round 3, that means they can play it for a second or a third time, I should say, in round 6. So it's important that you get it done before we hit round 4. They filled the site with Goyo canisters. Again, M80 banned out that Twitch. It's not on your HUD because of the rehost, but Twitch is not available in this game. So, of course, that makes clearing out those Goyo canisters very difficult. DZ will do their best by shooting them from the hatch, by tossing in grenades, by tossing in Flores drones as well. These are not the best tools. They're a little bit more limited. Still, Bolo works his way around the zap of the bulletproof camera, managed to clear out some of that utility. And despite the limited resources, I really like the way that they've used these Flores drones. Basically, every piece of utility, including the wall, have been completely eliminated by Bolo. They've set themselves up for a great 5v5 execute as soon as these Toxic Babes run out.
It's the dance that we often refer to as, right? Where you've just got to wait out this utility. Whether it's the Goyo canisters, whether it's the Tachanka Molotovs, whether it's a gas, flames, what have you. Kino, the very first player to strike first. Deep inside of lockers, looking all the way to CCTV. Hyper will do some damage as well, and they've has to peel off of the spot. NJR, the very first kill for DarkZero. Right now, the numbers favoring M80, and there's a Nitro Cell lined up as well. He's completely blind, but Citizen tosses it out. It's shot away. The toxic gas will linger. It doesn't do enough damage to Nath. He's the only one standing. As once again, M80 have been so successful here. They will double up and get him down. It looked like the shotgun, as well as Citizen's secondary, to deal some serious damage, and 4 players from M80 will survive as they easily counter-disable, and they take the lead over DarkZero.
Yeah, big man advantage favoring M80 through that round. Almost the exact opposite of what we saw in round 1. In round 1, the man advantage was looking pretty good for DarkZero, and they just barely got that plant down in time. This time, the plant came somewhat easier, but they didn't have any numbers up. So M80 were able to swarm that, take the post plants. Kobe went down first. Pamba went down right after. Then we saw Spoit take down one NJR, I believe, around the main stairs too. So a lot of those players that were trying to hit around the site, either playing the hatches or playing towards the back, really did get punished on the side of DarkZero. So I like that from M80. We didn't catch all of it on camera because obviously we were focused on the execute, but getting those picks elsewhere on the site were vitally important to rack up that man advantage from M80. So nice job coming out from them. They will take the lead for the first time in this game as they win back-to-back rounds.
Second time's a charm. And with DZ's swap up, it really didn't work the way they wanted. So how do you approach this top floor? Well, look at the lineup that DarkZero is bringing right now. You've got lots of utility clear with that Flores, as well as the Ace. You can easily burn through those defenders in stationary positions, which might be enabled by the logic bombs of Nafe's Dokkaebi. You've also got smokes on the board as well, and then grenades for displacement and gadget discovery from the IQ. I like what DarkZero's brought. It's a very, very good lineup that works in a lot of ways. And Bolo's actually going to bring the DMR, which is something you don't always see on the Flores. That's the same DMR that's brought by Blackbeard. It does an awful lot of damage. And I still remember the day where Bosco decided to run that DMR on the Blackbeard playing on Oregon, and people said, wait, hold on a second, that does an awful lot of damage. The operator himself now, Blackbeard, by the way, really not that important. But boy, oh boy, what a good gun that is. Hyper goes for the run out. He's got 4 kills. He had a great start as well before the stats reset. So Hyper's been able to settle in on this M80 team. The Selmas that were tossed out onto the wall over Lone Office is now gone. So DarkZero finding some difficulties, landing successful gadgetry here, Jesse.
Yeah, that was a really cool Evil Eye from Cameraman. Now that Maestro has 3 of those bubbles, was able to put one in the lone office and shoot off the Selma charges with the Evil Eye laser. I've never seen that before. That's really creative. Cool stuff from Cameraman. It will keep that cancel wall closed for a little bit longer. Certainly that could be dealt with, but it's going to mean a big rotation. There's the camera now, Pamba. He kills Hyper. He'd rather have Hyper than a pick onto an Evil Eye, I'm sure, but still a little frustrated with that utility. Doesn't have what he would like to deal with it. So that's going to stay up for now. Inside of lone office, Hyper will flick through the cams, and they're not going to get that wall open, most likely, meaning that DarkZero will have to resort to other means to get their way in, and this is certainly one of them. An upside-down Spider-Man repel. It will find a kill on a Cameraman. A brilliant play from Nath.
Nave has had some very pronounced struggles so far this stage in terms of killing. What he brings to the table, though, is usually leadership. Not this round, though. Jesse, 2 picks. And M80 are feeling the heat. They wanted 3 rounds in a row. They can still get it. Kino has 4 kills, no deaths since coming back from the rehost. Citizen can also take over rounds, but DarkZero have only lost about 40 HP across the entire team. Logic Bomb will go out, and Citizen was slowed down for a moment. 2 very quick kills back-to-back for DarkZero as they equalize. That top floor execute looking pretty good, and it turns out that while their gadgetry wasn't exactly where it needed to be, their kills certainly were, and that's something that for this stage, DZ has really not had a problem with. The magic number right now is 1. 1 loss for DZ. It came against Sonics, and it was DZ's very first match of this stage. Playday number 1, DZ has the day off. Playday number 2, they lose against Sonics, the old DZ IGL of Troy Canadian, gone over to Sonics, and Sonics would have a pretty good laugh in that matchup. DZ lost 2-7. Since then, DZ has won every single remaining match in regulation. That is quite the streak that they are on right now. 6 victories in a row. They're looking for 7 in a row, and if they can pull it off, they will guarantee themselves first in the NA League. Nothing the Sonics can do to close that gap, as they would be 4 points back, and that is too high of a number to do in a single matchup. It would be intriguing to see the C9 Beast Coast versus Sonics match and what would happen, but DarkZero has to get there. They have to beat M80 in regulation first.
Yeah, number 1, more important than just that, DarkZero 1 round away from locking down top 2 as well, from guaranteeing themselves the tiebreaker over SSG, meaning that there are no longer 2 teams that can overtake them. So DarkZero 1 round away from giving themselves a bye for the first round of playoffs. Lovely the way they've been playing this game so far. They've been a bit creative. It hasn't always worked out, but they've had creative solutions to difficult problems too. That upside down repel from Nafe, a great example of that. They've now got to work some creative solutions into this office open area bomb site. Open area cafeteria will be the goal. This time the cancel wall gets opened without any problems. Not as many resources dedicated from M80 to keep it closed. Hyper is on our newest operator as well, Scopos. Could try to do something sneaky. Currently just playing in cafeteria here. Doesn't want to get too out of the blue, but can move around if he needs to. Can rotate to that second off, and here we go. The Blitz is in archives and giving a horrible time to Citizen.
2 kills for Nave. We say his name, and suddenly he is dominating for DarkZero. He's got the diffuser now as well. And amidst the smoke, he's going to plant that one. Soft destruction for Cameraman as he goes for the drop. Pambazu eliminated by Spoit as the timer will now run. Whatever remained in the round is gone. Cameraman firing away to try to keep this one close. That shield still on the board means that if you can isolate a pick, the Blitz will be so good. Kobe's in the corner. They don't seem to know he's there. Cameraman closing in. He wins the duel. Numbers will be even yet again, and Nafe is far removed from that diffuser while Bolo will find his way to the top blue. I don't necessarily like how far removed DarkZero are from the objective, but Bolo will be a sight line away from picking them off. Shooting through the barricade, down goes Cameraman, and now it's Spoit to deal with the shield and Bolo as the Blitz runs ever closer. Spoit just continuing to keep him at bay. And he's as good as gone. See ya later. DZ wins the round. They regain the lead. They've got 3 rounds in the first half. 4-2 is definitely possible.
Winning a 1v1 against Spoit certainly is easier when you've got a blitz right in front of you blinding him, isn't it, Bolo? Nice little post-plant victory from DarkZero. Obviously, that's going to be good enough for them to secure their top 2 spot as well, meaning that they are the first team to do so in the North American League. Big for a team that a lot of people were making fun of, were laughing at after they lost embarrassingly in their very first playday against their former team member of Canadian. DarkZero that first week looked really rocky. People had a lot of doubts over if this team would make it even to playoffs, and with how they've turned their season around so quickly, DarkZero have proven everybody wrong, bouncing back dominantly. Now they just need to secure that first place in the group stage, and they will have done everything that they could possibly have done since losing in the very first week. Beautiful stuff coming out from DZ. I like that execute quite a bit. Of course, just roam clearing around the map, making sure they were always set up in the right positions to maintain their post plants. Back-to-back rounds, DZ wanted to go for a plant in cafeteria. They wanted to get that same plant down. This time they did it with a bit more conventional means, and it worked out beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, DZ's been a very innovative team so far this stage, and, you know, I said this in the matchup just 2 days ago. Whenever you talk about the Sonics and whenever you talk about DarkZero, you always need to mention these IGL changes, right? Nafe on DZ, Troy, formerly of DZ, now on Sonics. This has been a very good change for both teams. DZ has improved since Canadian went off the roster. Sonics have improved since Canadian joined the roster. And it's really nice to see when these two teams can make a move like this that seemed quite acrimonious to start. Canadian was obviously not happy with that. Him and Nafe kind of chewed the fat between each other when that roster move was made, but it has inarguably improved both of these teams. DZ better for it, Sonic's better for it, and this round in particular, DZ are better for it as well. As Citizens having a rough go of it, 1-4 to start this first half, ignoring the stats from the very first round as well, but me oh my. Bolo eliminating Cameraman. This looks like the first half is gonna go in favor of DarkZero. For a map like Bank, Jesse, it's only been played a single time prior to this matchup, and it was a very defender-sided match. 7 rounds won by the defenders to 3 for the attackers. That is by no means a proper look at the way that this map will be played, and right now, DarkZero inarguably looking like the better team. Is it just an attacker-sided map? We'll find out when the side swaps, but DZ, in a 5v2 with just a little over a minute to go, you're in good shape to ride it out for the rest of this map.
Hyper is out of C4s. He still has those Zoto canisters, of course, to try to keep some of these hatches closed, keep the utility for the Flores drones from blowing up, but it's only going to stall out the inevitable. The Deimos tracker comes out, it finds Hyper. Kino needs to make some kind of an aggressive move if they want to win this one. It is looking dire, but Kino knows what he has to do. He walks up the main stairs now, thinks better of it. He's trying to bait a push. There is a player just up above him. Maybe could go for a swing there, but I don't know if anybody on DarkZero is going to feed that bait.
You got shotguns, you've got DMRs, you've got a secondary SMG as well. There's some damage that can be done from these last 2 players of M80, but there's a lot of angles that they're going to need to watch. Only 1 toxic canister remains. It's been thrown out. Bullets will whiz by through that soft wall. There's a flank coming in, an unfortunate team kill, but it's all for naught. Kino is the only player remaining. He takes out Kobe, so no flawless round irrespective of the team kill, but DZ gets the final pick as that diffuser was going down, and DarkZero takes the first half 4-2. Man, NJR usually has some level of expression on his face, but the boys locked in this match.
Great roam clear coming through from DarkZero, of course, in that matchup. Finding Citizen, as you kind of touched on, and not having the best game. I remember last stage, Citizen really popped off towards the end of it. It was probably their MVP towards the very tail end of stage 1. Was definitely playing out of his mind. Spoit obviously was very good too. We saw Citizen a couple of times get some opening deaths in this game. He is really only 1-4 post-rehost. I don't remember if he did anything in the first round, but I don't believe that he did. At the moment, it seems like the new British import is kind of showing the old dog how it's supposed to go. Nath and Citizen, of course, both coming in from EU, coming over from England, trying to do their best inside the North American League. Both have had great success. Both are great players. But obviously through this stage, since transitioning to the IGL position, Nafe has been absolutely fantastic and will continue to lead DarkZero as they still hunt for that first place position.
Well, if the only play so far is any indication, then this is a better side for DarkZero, but I mean, let's not fool ourselves. I'm not going to try and treat the audience like idiots.
Yeah.
The numbers do not properly convey where Bank is, just based, obviously, on the play rate. But if we venture over, I am still very sick, by the way, just in case anybody's curious what is going on with my voice as to why I sound like I have swallowed a frog. Bank has been played 23 rounds in Europe so far this stage, and it is about a 50-50 map. So we have no real better idea over there. In Brazil, that is not the story, though. In Brazil, it has been played 60 rounds. The third most popular map after Chalet and Clubhouse. And guess what? It's still a 50-50 map, 48 to 52%. So there really is no guaranteed better side. Usually, the better team wins, and through that first half, it was DarkZero. Based on the way that they've played so far this stage, DarkZero statistically is the better team over M80. If you look at the points, M80, 12 points, DarkZero, 18. They have clinched a top 2 spot, and man, they could be putting this one away pretty quickly. I like what they brought on defense, but they've already suffered the first casualty. Spoit eliminating Nafe. That's a very quick one. Citizen finding Kobe as well. And another on to Pambazu. They were not expecting the Nook to be so close. DarkZero have one player left with a minute 20. Hold on. God damn, what a fast start for M80. A flawless entry. And it's done in the first minute and 40 seconds. That's the tempo that you want to set when you've got ground to make up and you know that the second half might be a little bit trickier. DZ have their work cut out for them after that round.
DZ seemingly unaware as to where those entries were coming in from M80. I mean, we saw the POV of Citizen on the Nook hit 2 great shots. Pambazu kind of wandering in, though, unaware of where that kill would happen. I think he was very eager to trade his teammate, but didn't know where that kill came from. They didn't have time to communicate that by the time that we saw Citizen getting that second kill. So beautifully done. Here are the shots now. One finds the Capcan traps, then deals with Pambazu. Beautiful job from the player that I was just talking about struggling throughout the last couple of rounds. Typically, he's been a bit better on the defense. He's actually a top 10 player when you just look at defensive stats inside the North American League. But maybe he's feeling a bit different today, Parker. Maybe he's deciding to switch up. And yeah, he wasn't exactly participating as much on the defensive half, but on attack, now it's his time to shine.
Yeah, a player like Citizen is always somebody you have to worry about. He can be 1 in 8 on the day, which admittedly happens very infrequently, if almost never, but yeah, he can still drop a 4K in a round and then get a 3K the next round, and oh, look at that, he's 8 and 8. Wow, what an incredible performance by him. And that's honestly why a player like Citizen always finds himself landing on the top teams. He goes from winning a Pro League final with Na'Vi over to G2 in a pretty big splash. He jumps across to Sonics on a team that looks like they can easily compete against the best international teams. They were one of the best North American teams, though they weren't able to find the success at a top level that they wanted in NA. And now he's gone over to this superstar team of M80, which again has had probably more struggles than Citizen had on G2. But what can you do? M80's roster right now, I would argue, looking like the best that they've had up to this point. If they can win here against DarkZero, this would be huge, not just for the standings and not just for Sonics, but would also be huge for their own momentum as they want to try and climb up those standings. They can't get into the top 3 at this point. The top 3 are locked in. Sonic, Space Station, and DZ will finish 1, 2, 3 in some order. But M80 could vault over Cloud9 Beast Coast, and then depending on what happens in that C9 Beast Coast Sonics matchup, it could be M80 finishing in 4th. A reminder that M80 started the day in 5th, and there is still the possibility that they could finish there as well.
Great intel coming through on the guy just in front of the front office. Kino's got a drone up here as well. Once they start walking the blitz up to the top floor, it could be very, very difficult for Kobe to stay alive. He's the one that's trying to exist in this position. He knows he's spotted as well, but he does take the swing, loses to Citizen regardless. So an unfortunate opening death coming out from Kobe. He will not be active for the rest of this round. One player down below, that's Nafe. They're not going to worry too much about him because they've got the cutoff. It's Cameraman down on the main floor to be able to find that kill from that outside garage, a long angle. That's a two-man lead, and Kino is barreling up the main stairs.
Oh, M80 in control at the moment. They have another player in their line of sight. The legs of Bolo seen. NJR with not just 1 kills, but 2. He and Pambazoo will have to clutch out this round if DarkZero want to be successful, if they want their lead to be maintained. If they're not, it's M80 tying things up. Hyper doesn't expect Pambazoo to be this close, and now Pambazoo will get aggressive towards the stairs and catches Cameraman looking. Spoit now in a 1v2 clutch. He'll swing on in. Surely they must have heard that. Repelling is by no means a quiet part of this game. 15 seconds left. To hunt for kills, he sees one over in conference. Gets NJR, almost gets Pambazoo. Good lord. Only a player as mechanically skilled as Spoit could have almost pulled that one off. DZ wins the round, and the comeback from M80 will need to wait not just another round, but also through this timeout, because DZ will stretch their lead to 2 rounds.
Yesterday on Twitter, Pamba told Kino he was charging him 10 grand for any shotgun or shield kill that Kino got in this game. Kino responds to that tweet saying, "Don't worry, I don't play either of those." Then he brings out the shield, proving that he is but a liar. And I think that upset Pamba a little bit because in that round, he went absolutely nuclear, getting all of those kills in the aggressive position just at the top of the spiral stairs, playing phenomenally, including getting the 1v1 over the current kill leader inside the North American League over Spoit. Love the way that Pamba's been able to play through this stage. You know, I do think the last couple of stages he's in not bad by any means, but he certainly hasn't hit the heights. I think in some of the previous stages that he has back on the early days of DZ, back when they were winning majors. This stage for me has really felt like a return to form for Pambazoo. I think he's been playing absolutely phenomenal throughout the second stage of the NAL. He's been so good on those entries, so good on his headshot percentages. Just been one of the best players that we have seen fragging constantly as DarkZero have been successful in themselves. So really well done by Pamba that round, saving what should have been a good clean DZ, clean M80 push. But Pambazoo is just a problem that was too tough to solve. So M80 ended up falling there.
He's a tactical timeout, and what can they possibly do? I mean, it was talked about that was a Cameraman is an exceptionally good player. It was in one of the content pieces that I saw.
Yes.
I was listening
talking
to.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, Cameraman brings leadership to this team, and leadership is hugely important. We've seen that one of the things that is most glaring among the teams that are towards the bottom of the score or of the standings are typically teams that don't have a real identity. They don't exactly have as much leadership as you would like. Or their leaders are younger or less experienced. So when you look at some of these teams, you wonder what would happen if somebody like a Cameraman, if somebody like a Nafe, like a Canadian, etc., was able to step onto the roster. Would they be able to completely change the identity around? M80 have plenty of gunners on the team, none of whom are really far above positive numbers, but they're looking to try and clear out this top floor. Have they got it done? Yes, it is. Multiple players from DZ just scrambling off of that top floor, heading for the hills. Pambazoo taken down. Nafe will follow. Cameraman picking up a double. I have no idea where these players died from. Oh my, both on the stairs. Damo still on the board. Zero still on the board. A Blitz still on the board. And DarkZero now only have 2 players remaining as NJR has been dropped. Spoit's taken out. NJR might be retrievable, but it's just Kobe and Bolo at the moment on their feet.
Yeah, 2 good players to have, though, I'll say that. Wanting to get match point in the bag for DarkZero. They've got 40 seconds plus a minute to try to hold on. That's 100 total. This is a problem site that can be very difficult to hold on, though. There goes a C4. Takes down Kino. A good start. Kobe lands that one, looking for the follow-up, too. He knows he's going to be pressured with the position revealed. He's on multiple drones at the moment, too. At the same time, Bolo getting tracked by the Deimos. The Deagle comes out, but Kobe will be a little bit secured. He's now going to have to clutch a 1v3 as his teammate of Bolo has fallen from the vertical angle.
This is such a tough spot to be in. They know exactly where he is as well. Does he reaggress and take the engagement? No, he wants a fight somewhere else. And now he'll be watched by the Deimos. As Citizen tracks his position and can give it to the rest of the teammates, Kobe will be on the move inside of open area. That position at square had not been relinquished yet. And it's an easy drop from Hyper to win the round for M80. And they're within one yet again.
It's funny, I believe the exact praise that Spoit was giving to Cameraman before the season started was that somehow, despite being an IGL, he was killing it in the opening engagements. And starting that round with a 2K, you kind of spoke it into existence, Parker. The 31-year-old captain from the suburbs of Sao Paulo, starting them off so good in that one. Obviously getting the man advantage so strongly in the favor of M80. Made it very, very difficult for DarkZero to come back. Despite some great efforts from Kobe Lax, thought he played well. Bolo, a strong performance too, but just not able to bring it back. The Deimos, I find, is such an oppressive operator because it can be so good in the early round for tracking down the roamers. But if you can have those gadgets still active in the late round, it makes it almost impossible for a team that has low on numbers or has given up the bomb site to make a comeback. Beautifully played by M80. They're within one.
These teams are very evenly matched through this bank matchup. And again, when you look at a 50-50 map, a 3-3-1/2 is expected. That's good news for DarkZero, because if they win 3 rounds through the second half, that's it. The game is over. They end up with their 7 points, and they do it in regulation. It doesn't matter if it's a 7-5 scoreline. That's irrelevant. I mean, obviously it will be a little too close for comfort, not just for themselves, but also for their fans. But you still pull away with those 3 points. You grab first overall. If you go to overtime, that's where things get a bit murkier. Sonics are 1 point back of DarkZero at the present moment. If DZ goes to OT, they guarantee themselves at least another point, which means Sonics will have to win in regulation or win in overtime with a better round differential. Against a team like Cloud9 Beast Coast, a victory is far from certain. It's expected based on the standings, but I mean, we didn't expect Space Station to go to overtime against Los, as an example. The unexpected can absolutely happen. Let's see if we get there, and we can talk about numbers later on, because we're a minute into this round, Jesse, and DarkZero have already suffered the first death. Goodbye, Pambazoo. That's a long time to play into a 4v5, and Citizen was on the hunt. Multiple players from DarkZero looking for another kill. Now over towards Printer. Cameraman eliminating Kobe. Bolo firing away, but M80 just hitting all of their shots. Is this sloppiness from DZ on these fights? They continuously come up empty-handed.
Yeah, bomb site's in a basement, by the way. We've got gunfights all over the map, but none of them anywhere near where the site is at. DarkZero, in less than half the round, have lost a lot of bodies, and I don't know that they were wanting to run it like this. The problem is they ran an attacking defensive lineup that doesn't have any plant denial, really. A little bit of Toxic Babes, but because they didn't have that, they knew they had to get aggressive in this early round. That was the game plan from the start. But as things get worse and worse, the need for aggression becomes greater and greater. Now hold on, because NJR with a pick onto Kino will grab the defuse kit and down it inside of open area. The Deimos will force him to retreat though, and so he has now just 1 minute to stall out. 3 Toxic Babes in his pocket. The problem is the intel is so good for M80.
NJR again being watched by this Deimos. Smart idea to keep those depth tracks towards the very end of the round, but these SAS operators with a shotgun, they can keep it close, and the Deimos has gone around the corner. He's got a shotgun of his own. The same shotgun, in fact, but it's Spoit to get the job done first. Tie game as M80 have taken their time out and have new life. This is a ball game between these teams.
It's odd that we're seeing DarkZero struggle so much as they continue to lose the opening pick. I say it's odd because DarkZero actually have some of the best recovery stats of any team in the entire world. Their defensive recovery is 64%. That means they win 64% of their defenses when they lose the opening pick. It's obviously much better when they win it, but still, that's a ridiculous stat line considering the average is around 1/3. So for DarkZero to be not just losing one body, but then bleeding 2, 3, 4 bodies is very odd and not something that they're going to be used to, as throughout this stage, that has been a very rare occurrence. Recognizing that it's happening a bit too much now, they will call their tactical timeout. You've got to give props to the players on M80. It feels like the cutoffs have just been so good here on Bank. Anytime a player finds themselves in a tough position from DarkZero, it gets even tougher because there's somebody on M80 holding a window on rappel, wall banging them from halfway across the map, making sure they can't make it back to site, making sure they can't make it back to a teammate for a trade. They're always so clean at making sure if they see a player, they kill a player. And so the ability for DarkZero to be slippery to escape has really not been there. I've been super impressed by M80 through the second half. They now have won 3 of their 4 attacks. They've tied this game up at 5-5.
We'll go all the way. This might be a long day, and I mean, when you get towards the end of the group stages, this is what you come to expect. Teams have gotten plenty of game day reps in at this point. Your opponents have been able to counter-strat you. You've been able to come up with some strategies and tweak them. Ideally, players have settled into their rosters, and I mean, still, it's not a lot of time for you to get to the top level of your play, but your potential is starting to be met for a team like DarkZero. There were a lot of changes that came in with NAF taking over as acting IGL, and it's been quite fantastic to watch DarkZero be able to make these changes as quickly as they have. You know, when you have an IGL and an identity change, it could take a whole stage or two, frankly, Jesse, for you to be playing at a level where you're not just comfortable, but you're also dominating. I mean, an IGL change, an identity change, a brand new player who's competing in Tier 1 for the first time ever, and you might finish first overall. It does really go to show you what a change of scenery was needed for Troy and what DarkZero needed for a change, because the tools of this team have been here for quite some time, right? Nave and Bolo were picked up earlier this year. It's not like they're newbies. So DarkZero's always had those tools. They just needed some minor tweaks. They found it, and now this team looks as good as ever. As for M80, Hyper needed some time to get the rust off. He's been out of active competitive play for a very, very long time. We always know he's an exceptionally good player, and only now are we starting to see him feel comfortable to take on these engagements against the best of the best. And when he's on, M80 obviously succeeds far more than when he's not playing up to his potential. So, a team in 5th place, a team in 1st place. I expect a pretty good match in that we've got so far.
We're seeing some brilliant Flores play come out of Citizen. We saw it earlier in the game from Bolo as well. Citizen will get value out of all 4 of those Rotero drones, stealing some very important utility, taking it all off of the board, meaning that VIP room, that stock room, is going to be really tough for DarkZero to hold on to. The Capital Bolt will also make Kanto difficult to hold on to. The Firebolt will try to deny any type of bandit tricking, but the bandit tricks come out nonetheless. Cameraman, the EMPs come out right after, and so it's not going to be too big of a problem. But even still, that's really good utility play from start to finish out of M80. They have gotten basically everything that they could have wanted out of this early round. You've gotten shields cleared out, you've gotten the Kanto wall open, player on rappel, cameraman can sit here through the entirety of the round and just hold this very important angle on the hallway, allowing the rest of M80 to use these candelas, use these smokes, and go for a big execute.
Not a lot of time to work with Jesse. 40 seconds as they pick apart this soft destruction. There goes one of those fire bolts. Candelas will rain out as well. Hyper, the very first pick. He was looking for Pambazoo. He gets it. A swing in from Kino as DZ are aligned properly to tackle these repels, but they need to win their duels, and they're not accomplishing it just yet. Back and forth these teams will go. DZ finally hitting their marks. Diffuser in the hands of Kino, who's doing so much work, but he's got to get that case down, and he needs salvation inside of the site. He's all alone. DZ looking for the knockout punch. Kino runs out of time, and DZ survives long enough to get match point. 1 point for DZ. They cannot lose in regulation. That is huge.
It's big for their chances of getting that first place seed. That really was a great round from Kino. He did everything he could, but he had no help getting in there. He had to put the defuse kit onto the ground. He couldn't kill all of them. Those Candelas were utilized well. They had everything they wanted in the early round, but too many of those players died on the rappel in. Kino got really deep. I loved his positioning. I loved his shots that he was taking, but just wasn't enough as all of his teammates ended up falling around. Kobe killed Hyper, Nate got a big pick, and while Kino was often there for the trades, it didn't matter. I didn't see enough smokes. I didn't see a ton of smokes coming out there. Typically, I think the game plan would be Kino jumps in under the cover of smoke, goes for a plant, and then everybody else can cover from the windows. Kino chose to push deep because I think he realized that his teammates were falling and he needed to get those kills. If they had any chance of winning that round, he certainly got a lot of them, but it wasn't going to be enough. If they maybe had gone for a more plant-focused strategy, got that smokes out, got that defuse kit on the ground, perhaps could have had better success. All the credit to DarkZero, though, for, of course, holding down that site. They didn't have many strong positions that they could play, but it didn't seem to matter.
I'm very impressed with both of these teams. It's been a good showing so far. Our next matchup, by the way, is I have you here in our final round, well, at least final round of regulation, is OXG versus Luminosity. If you have not been dialed in to the North American League so far this stage, Oxygen is winless. They're not pointless. They've got 2 points so far with 2 overtime losses, but they've yet to get a single victory. It's the first time in the history of this organization, as far as I'm aware, that this has happened. And when I said these teams can lack an identity and lack leadership, it seems like OXG is currently going through their own woes, but there's other things going on. There's been some talks on social media about issues that the organization itself is having as well, which might be reverberating to the actual players in the roster, leading to a less than successful stage. They go up against Luminosity, and Luminosity is in a position where they can get that 6th and final playoff spot. They are 3 points back of wildcard. If they win in regulation, and they do so with a better round differential than +2, they will have that 6th and final spot, and all of the teams in the playoffs will be locked in. That would put wildcard down with Los and OXG. Los and OXG are both guaranteed out of the playoffs. As for the top, the final matchup of the day is Cloud9 Beast Coast against Sonics. If Sonics prevail with all 3 points, they could finish first, but that depends on what happens in this matchup, Jesse. And DZ just gave themselves a big leg up towards 3 points. Bolo getting shredded by Kino, who picks up more than 1. Hambazoo also drops after Kobe had started off the killing in this round.
One of the best sniper players that we see, but he finally gets punished by NJR, who's also familiar with that operator. We saw him rocking it through the first couple of rounds. Bolo gets picked up, so it's not 2, but just 1 kill from Tino on that Glaz. Means that it is a 3v4 as they look for the final execute. Did a great job finding that initial pick onto Citizen. Some poor timing, didn't allow that Nook entry to go the way that they wanted. Nath in the site, Bolo in the site. A lot of these players just sitting in without much map control. Cameraman makes his way over now. They have a lot of horizontal control. Hyper up above. What can they do with it?
Well, you're seeing it right here. Kobe is down for the count, and more bullets are tossed on in from the DMR in the hands of Cameraman, who just inches around towards this door frame, looking into open area, holding this angle. All the while, Hyper and Spoit need to get in and do some damage as well. Nave sits and waits.
15 seconds remaining.
It's in a pretty decent spot. All of DZ tucked away in corners, awaiting these engagements. Bolo will jump on in next. Across from Bolo, but Hyper's better in the engagement. Now it's Cameraman and Hyper left to clash, drawing their focus. NJR on very limited HP. Nafe will need to clutch as Hyper gets Diffuser down. Can Nafe get summoned into action? No, we go to overtime. M80 denies DZ all 3 points.
Despite the early man lead, it doesn't matter if you're asleep. When the bomb site hit comes, they get a free pick into Archives to start off that push, and then NJR just sloppy on the clash, exposing his back not just to the first planter, but then the second time to the long angle as well. Gets him shut out. Not the defense that DZ thought that they were going to have. That should have been a fairly straightforward round towards the end of it, but it just wasn't. Citizen, poor timing on that initial gunfight. The fact that he just looked down, he was holding the angle that Kobe was watching forever. Unlucky there, but then it didn't matter because Cameraman got revenge. kills Kobe inside of Archives, makes his way in through the small office, ends up picking up Nave on that final fight. Very difficult one for Nave to try to win. Of course, after he won that, he would have had to find the final 1v1 as well. So a tough spot, but ultimately I love the way that M80 were able to pace themselves walking in through lobby. I guess the thought process from DarkZero was, you know what? We already killed a guy that's trying to walk in front door, trying to walk in through Archives. That shouldn't be a problem anymore. Well, no, there's another person tellers, and they were a huge problem. Cameraman, ever since we started talking about him, Parker, has been fantastic in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Cameraman's always had the potential. He used to be a top-tier gunner way back in the day, but we're talking years ago. We're talking 5, 6 years ago, give or take. He's playing more sheltered roles since then, and his success on these teams hasn't really been what it used to. I mean, he is an older dog. It is hard to teach them new tricks, but he still shows value. And there's a reason why he's still in demand for a lot of these teams. I mean, he did make a major final in Copenhagen against W7M not long ago. So it's entirely possible that he can dominate a game. It's just not usually the role that we see him on. Here in overtime, his very first operator will be a clash. Just as we saw DarkZero rock that same operator moments ago, I will be intrigued to see how Cameraman is deployed in this round.
Good use of the can openers to get these hatches down. It's not a roam strategy from M80, so they're not too concerned by this. Kaid banned out in this game as well, don't forget, so nothing they could really do to keep these hatches closed, barring a silly Rooney strat that we do see sometimes on the server hatch, but nothing like that happening here. Cameraman on the clash inside a server. I'm usually not a fan of this. I feel it doesn't delay that much actual time, and often that clash ends up going down pretty quickly because the clash is so isolated from the rest of their teammates. We'll see if it does work out for Cameraman today. DarkZero in full control of this top floor. They've gotten, I believe, all the hatches open. I didn't see if lobby hatch opened or not, but they certainly had the ability to open it if they wanted it. Air jabs are a good way to try to counter this clash. The fire already coming out as well as it starts to burn. Can Cameraman get out of this situation? No, the air jab comes through and he does die. Okay.
Oh my. Well, that's the answer, I guess, to the question of what's going to happen with the clash. And that's a huge operator to lose with this much time still remaining. Look at the lineup on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. All 3 toxic canisters are still in pocket for Kino. He was sensational before with blanketing that entry point and doing some damage along the way. DZ will have to wait out the flames of the Goyo canister, as those are the Rotero drones from Bolo being used to blow them up so that M80 won't have the time to do it themselves. DZ getting ahead of the problem. We see teams do this time and time again. This is very routine stuff. But Kino, with 30 seconds left, will now start to use those toxic canisters. All the while, NJR is looking for a drop inside a vault. He can do some serious damage if nobody from M80 is looking in that direction. And with Cameraman dead, there will be one fewer player that can watch these angles. Pambazoo gets the job done, and suddenly DZ takes Vault. It's got Citizen's attention elsewhere. 2 quick kills, though, from both Spoit and Citizen. Put it back into a 3v3. DZ chews through them. Nath pulls off the diffuser, meaning that even though there was less than 10 seconds remaining, the timer will extend the life of both of these teams. A shot through the wall right as it looked like M80 were getting in position, and Nath does it all himself in the final moments. DZ on match point of overtime.
When you think about Kobilax as a player, you don't really think of the Nomad. At least I don't. He's played it a couple times throughout the stage, but it's certainly not a primary operator and not one that he played a bunch in Tier 2 either. I think it was a really smart pick to get around that clash. Again, when Cameraman was trying to delay time inside of server, the problem with a clash in that position is you just have no help. It's really difficult for your teammates to come through and assist you in any way because they're all the way back in sight. They don't have great angles. If they push up, then they're going to be in the middle of the bomb site under a hatch, extremely exposed. So one air jab forced him back. Then he had to try to move around with the shield on his back. Cameraman just could not do any work on the clash, and that started the round very strong from DarkZero. From there, the Rotero drone continued to be excellent from Bolo. They cleared out those Goyo canisters. They went for a standard plant while still covering from the hatches, while still pushing deep on Pambazoo, doing everything right, a textbook server push once they cleared out that clash with the air jab. So really quick thinking from DarkZero, good play from Kobilax on an operator that he's not exceptionally known for. I thought that was really, really smart from DarkZero and just a textbook example of how you should push that bomb site when presented with what M80 showed.
Really wonder how different that round would have been if the Clash was still alive, Jesse. Now it's DZ's turn to bring the aggro shield operator for a different bomb site, though. I like these different approaches. Go into open area, bring the shield operator, slow everything down. M80 running with not an unconventional lineup, but some operators you don't see a ton of for this bomb site. A Buck and a Maverick. Oh, where did it go? That thing had a mind of its own.
All right.
I am very confused by that one, but sure enough, what can you do? Anyway.
More good Flores usage coming out. We see both teams using this operator extremely well. When Twitch is banned, you tend to see a lot of Flores. And here's the gunfights. Nath has entered into the site. He's, of course, flanking back on that Scopos. Has gotten 2 big kills. Spoit and Cameraman thought that they had a gap, but no. Shut down by the captain of DarkZero. And now Citizen Hyper and Kino in a 3v5. Plenty of time to play with, but a desperation as they have now lost all of their teammates to try to win this push.
Not exactly where you need to be. DarkZero is just absolutely demolishing them. And M80 wanted this victory. They wanted to stun DarkZero. DZ could not get it done in regulation, but it seems all but certain at this point that they'll do it in OT. 2 rounds in a row for DarkZero will guarantee them those 2 points. It'll give Sonics an opportunity to catch up, though. This is an opening that they can take advantage of. DZ will win the round flawlessly and grab those 2 points, but the ultimate goal of securing first with a regulation victory is not met. All the same, a spirited contest between 2 teams very evenly matched on a very even map results in us needing 14 of those 15 rounds.
A great game. I don't think DarkZero are going to be too upset by that one. They will happily take their bye through the first round. Mission is accomplished, and they still have a very good chance of securing first as well. Will be in the hands of Sonics to ultimately figure out how that one goes. But I don't think DZ are going to be upset. They played exceptionally today, and they should be feeling very proud.
We've got 2 more matches to go. We're at the halfway point. We'll be back with more of the NA League.
Well, it looks like M80 still have some pretty significant problems that they have to fix, but for DarkZero to get yet another dub, it's now a 7-game win streak to close out the stage. And let's be real, it wouldn't be a North American League stage if it wasn't for DZ going to overtime at least once, so I'm glad we got it in there at the end.
It was a really hard-fought battle, and M80 definitely showed up. I mean, we saw a lot of innovation, and I think a lot of it really came down to today of just the way M80 was just playing on the fly, and it looked like they were a lot more lively. It didn't look like they were really playing to a strat book, and it's one of the closer games that we've seen from them so far, so maybe that's something that they can take going into playoffs and to not be so rigid or stuck to the preparation before game.
Yeah, and if something's not working, it's easily just to pull something out like that, play a little more loose. But I mean, this game, yeah, it was really back and forth. You didn't really know who was going to run away with this game. Sure, DZ did in the end, but I said this was going to be a good game. It was going to be a good back and forth, and that's exactly what it was. It was just, you know, they were on one end of the court versus the other. But ultimately, DZ, again, coming out with now 7 wins in a row. That's a statement piece, to say the least.
It is a statement piece, but the trickiest thing with DZ not winning outright, the fact that they won in overtime, brings them up to a potential of getting 20 points. SQ has 17 points. If SQ, at the end of the day, wins out, and they win from a 7-4 or better, they will be able to jump over DZ and take that first place spot. So it's not like DZ has been confirmed to first place.
Which we know
they won first, and they want to keep it there. If they had gotten the full 3 points over M80, no question, absolutely DarkZero is first. But now there's still a chance Sonics can sneak up in there.
Which, I mean, Troy's gunning for that. All of Sonics are gunning for that. Amber said, you know, they want to end this first regardless, so they're going to be shooting for that in that last game. But we got a more important game coming forward than that last one.
That is true. For DarkZero, it's all about pride. For Space Station, it was really, they had their chance earlier, but top 2 probably is not going to happen depending on the result of that Sonics matchup. For M80, they weren't in a position to get any higher than 5th. They'll stay in 5th because C9BC is in 4th, can't go any higher. So this is just the moment in Stage 2 where all of those positions for playoffs are just going to start solidifying.
Yeah, nothing really changes here for M80. Again, this is just more so for them to just get another rep in, to get ready going into playoffs. We've reiterated this like a million times now. It's just, I cannot wait till we get into playoffs where all of these games are going to matter. And then we get to really see how teams fare up in a best of 3 instead of a best of 1.
Yeah,
we've seen many times.
All the teams going into playoffs excite me just because, especially M80, I mean, they haven't looked that best throughout the stage.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to make it seem like, oh, I'm just like glazing M80. Like, I feel like M80 really is set up really well for the best of 3. So is DarkZero. So, I mean, even though M80 lost today, I mean, there's a lot to take away from, and there's a lot of good that we saw, and hopefully we see it in playoffs.
Well, we knew that the race for top 2 was going to be an intriguing one, but the thing that we still have to figure out is who is claiming that last playoff spot. Is it Luminosity or is it Wildcard? The funny part is, OXG is the one team standing in the way. That's game 3. Next.
I guess I'll do this for the setup tour. It's a new mouse I got and I love it. Ignore the design. It's like it's a WL mouse. It's from China or something. It was actually sold out, so I couldn't get a normal color. That's why all these weird like dog designs are on it. I'm not like a big fan of that stuff. I won't say it.
I play with this WL Beast X mouse. It's a new one for me. I like it very much. And of course, I'm using the Woodsing. Just need this to play. Mousepad, I don't like. Whatever.
It's just bad, man. But ever since I got her, I won a major. Before I didn't have her, I didn't. So she has to be good luck.
People would say I was narcissistic, but this is me. And then this is my beautiful team, and I have that sitting right next to me, and I look at it every time we lose a round, so I know that it's just temporary.
If I make the major, I'm taking this one right here. This is like my deluxe arm right here.
I'll do Mayor McCheese, obviously. I always have him with me.
I'm not like superstitious really, so I don't want to say a good luck charm. Bears are my spirit animal, I would say. And I also think this is it's funny. It's a little bear in a can. I actually get pulled over at security all the time because like they'll see my backpack and they'll be like, oh, you got like canned food in your bag, and then I literally start laughing and I pull this out. And especially in Canada, they always find it funny, so.
It's total calamity, total mayhem inside of the server. Out of nowhere, they find the round back into their favor.
Holding up for the plunder wave.
And I think he might just find it.